What a sports Sunday, and we are here on the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Game to run through it all with you. It is Masters Sunday. The Red Wings know their playoff opponent, and Justin Verlander did everything last night except walk on water. We're going to have a one-on-one conversation with new Lions safety James Hedibo, but this is the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. I am Brad Galley. On the couch with me this week is 105.1's Matt Derry.
Hey, Brad.
Hey, Matt.
How are you?
And hey, Matt Shepard from
the Matt
11:30
Show.
here.
Hey, Brad. How are you?
I'm Matt Galley for the rest of the day. It's so great to be with you. It's Matt, and Matt. First of all,
Easier to pronounce than Hedibo.
much more. And
Yeah,
Tom's
you
going
did a
to
good
get
job
into
of
the distinct pronunciation
Yeah.
of that because that's a big deal. He
It
wore
is
a nice
a big
floppy
deal.
hat.
Yeah. You don't want to mispronounce anybody's names. Trust me. Been there, done that. Don't want to do that. You'll hear tweets and emails. You'll get all kinds of negative feedback. Yeah.
Funny you mentioned tweets because we want to hear from you. Use the hashtag 7SportsCave to interact with us. We're going to be talking pretty soon about what the Lions should do in the draft. Should they trade up? We want to hear from you. Drive our conversation. We know what you feel, big guy in the orange. We're going to talk about that soon coming up. But first of all, a name that we all know how to pronounce, Ndamukong. Ndamukong Suh has been in the center of Lions talk this week as training camp is looking ahead, and I'm sure he'll be there for that. But this has been the kind of meet the teacher week with Jim Caldwell and his staff meeting for the first time, and Ndamukong Suh, the only one not in town.
Well, also a captain who's not in town.
A captain who's not in town, and someone who's left his teammates to talk about why he's not in town.
Yeah, I've said this before. I know it's not mandatory. That's why it's called a voluntary camp. And I get a lot of people telling me, well, what's the big deal? It's voluntary. What's he really missing? And my argument is exactly. So what's the big deal? Look, he's a captain. Last year or 2 years ago, he went to a lot of players, veterans in that locker room, and said to them, how do I become a captain of this football team? I want to become a captain of this football team. To a man, they said, you're already great. Make others around you great. Become less selfish. Captains don't do this. This isn't Chris Durham, all right? And Ndamukong Suh has always shown up, and he's always performed. But this is a leadership thing. There's a difference between certain guys leading and other guys not. He is not leading right now. And I'm not saying it's going to affect his play or necessarily the Lions. But this is not what captains do. You wanted to be a captain, additional responsibility comes with the C on your jersey. Own it, live up to it.
Shep will, I think, will probably agree with me on this, but this is what the organization has allowed for many, many years.
Yeah.
And Ndamukong Suh is under a different set of rules. I think the star players on this team are under a different set of rules, and that's okay. I've never been one to say, well, you can't win with all these guys under your salary cap. You can't have 3 stars. Why not? If they're great football players, and Suh is a great football player, why not? If Stafford performs like he's supposed to, and it's great, because that's what they took him at number 1 to be great, not very good, then we don't have these types of discussions. But with Suh, he stomps on a guy, he chop blocks a guy, he acts like a jerk sometimes. It's always been, let's just sweep it under the rug. At mini camps and at the combine, Mayhew was asked about Suh. Oh, we got it. Damo's cool. He'll be back. And it just continues to happen because the organization allows it.
Well, wait a minute. Is that any different than any other organization that has different rules for different star players? Is that any different than any other level? Happens in college, happens in high school.
Yeah.
Okay? And it happens at the pros. And it happens in every single sport where certain guys get away with certain things.
Correct.
Okay?
But
look, Miguel Cabrera is the best hitter on the face of the earth. If he did what he did, or if he did, you remember what he did about 3 years ago,
Sure.
if Don Kelly does that, he's not on this team.
Right.
Okay? So there are different rules for different players.
But wouldn't it be nice if one time they ever said, no, we don't like that?
Jim Caldwell's been here for what, 3 months, 2.5 months, and already he's trotting out in the first question he gets about Ndamukong Suh. I've talked with him more than any other player. I'm fine.
So why didn't he resign? So why isn't there
exactly? I don't buy it. That's an excuse.
Well, that has nothing to do with whether he signed or not.
True.
Dealing with your head coach is different than dealing with a contract. But you're right. What he's done is he's forced other players to step forward and talk about him rather than him being there. And as a player, I wouldn't like it. And as a coach, I wouldn't like it.
When you look at what he's done across the board already, Suh goes in and doesn't show up. Reggie Bush has got to make the excuse. Stafford's got to make the smirk.
Right.
It puts guys in a terrible position.
Sure
and it's
does.
not, as a captain, where you want to be.
And again, and Shep is right. Other teams have to go through the same thing. But this is a high-profile player. And the other problem is he's the best player. You could argue he's the best player on the team, offense and defense. You can make that argument.
There's no question.
So you have to have him. So the people that go, oh, I'm so sick of Suh, just trade him, Martin, get some picks for him. If you trade him, the time is now, Caldwell said. You trade him, the defense is going to blow even more than it already does.
Well, because they trust Nick Fairley so much.
Right. Well, that's a guy.
You can't trade him though, just because of the cap hit and everything else.
Right,
and you
right.
know what? I want to keep good players. I don't like getting rid of really good players. He comes with this is baggage, okay? And I don't think it matters to him. But the other thing that this organization has to think about is the public perception. This is a team that is trying to win its fan base over with certain draft picks, and we're keeping certain players and justifying the money that they're paying certain players, and this doesn't help them at all.
All right, let's talk and shift gears a little bit to some more big money guys here, and one in particular last night. Justin Verlander looked great for the Tigers, and finally got himself a hit. 2.
And an RBI.
And an RBI.
It was kind of cute in a way.
It was.
I
When
mean,
he gets on, he's clapping
it was
and
better than the
laughing.
hand-in-hand pictures of him and Kate Upton from the other day walking the streets of L.A.
You got those, huh?
Oh, I saw him online.
Yeah,
Sure.
Of course. And
Just
you were looking at
across them.
Verlander the entire time.
It's part of
I-
show
I-
research.
I like that he went the other way. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't do that as a player. Go the other way with the ball. He shoots one to right, scores a run. Good for him.
He has more hits than Alex Avila. At least somebody's going the other way.
He's bad.
Hello.
2 weeks in, what are your impressions of this team? The bullpen woes continue. Last night at least settled down, but overall impressions as they sit in first in the Central.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not that worried about it. I knew left field was going to be an issue, whether Andy Dirks was healthy or not. I knew shortstop was going to be a bit of an issue. This team cannot afford to have injuries, but a lot of teams can't do that. Let's see how the Dodgers do without Clayton Kershaw until June. Let's see how the Angels do without Josh Hamilton for a while, because he was off to a really good start. Let's see how Washington does without Zimmerman for a while with a broken thumb. This team can ill afford to lose one of their key guys for an extended period of time. It's not unlike many other teams, though.
Top of the order has been great. I don't think we're never going to see Rajai Davis. I mean, take a picture of it, screenshot it on your phone. 320 ain't going to happen the rest of the year. But he and Kinsler have sort of set the table now to where Brad Ausmus, to his credit, and this is something his predecessor did not do, and I'm a Leland fan, but he's moved some lineups around, and it's worked. They are not 3 and 6; they're 6 and 3. Right. He's put Cabrera fourth. He's taken some chances.
I don't like that. I keep Cabrera third.
I'd always have him
my
third,
best
but with Torrey Hunter being hot, it's been okay. He's gotten away with it.
Yeah.
The bullpen's a dumpster fire. It's awful. Kroll has been really good, but he's the only one. Nathan, I'm very worried about. For him to come out and say I have a dead arm, and then Frost was to pitch him that night.
But he did pitch last night.
He did, yeah, he's gotten better.
Would you move Smiley back to the bullpen?
Of course,
Okay,
absolutely.
Then who's your fifth starter?
I don't know.
But you got to have that answer.
Well, that's why they shouldn't have. That's why they should never have traded Doug Fister.
Right. Well, I get that, and especially what they got for him. But Ian Kroll's been really good,
Smiley,
and he was part
you're
of
right.
that deal.
Dude, Smiley in that role. When you have maybe you got a Sanchez that goes 100 pitches through 6, and you're in a 2-2 game. To have Smiley come in to pitch the 7th and the 8th.
He was the steadiest hand last year.
He's very good. I from the get-go when they made that Fister trade, I said, I know you want to move Smiley in, and he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But you're really hurting the pen, and right now,
Well, it's more from a left-handed standpoint, though.
But
okay?
I'd just rather have him out there at all.
Because everybody
I love
wants
him.
Phil Coke gone, as do I. But you need to have another lefty in your bullpen if you're a situational type manager, and just about every single manager is. So if you move him back to the bullpen, you better have someone to take that spot. Right now, they don't have anybody in Toledo who can take that spot. That's the problem.
I'm ready for the Blaine Hardy era. Come on.
Okay. All right.
I'm reading in the newspaper about Melvin Mercedes. I mean, I remember reading about Ryan Perry, Brian Villarreal, Jose Ortega, Luis Marte. I'm still waiting.
Matt Anderson.
Matt
The list goes
Anderson. Well, that was the predecessor. That was under the Randy Smith era.
Who can forget that era?
The era, everybody, of playoff hockey continues for the 23rd year here in Hockeytown. A nice stretch to get in, and the Wings know now that they're locked in. They're going to be playing the Bruins. The only team in the NHL to beat the Bruins 3 times, the Red Wings. Right. Are you afraid of the big bad Bruins?
I'm really afraid, but I'll tell you this. I was out in Boston this past weekend, or just before today. They're just as worried about Detroit as Red Wing fans are worried about the Bruins. Bruins have the best goaltender in Tuukka Rask. They have 9 guys who have a plus-minus better than the best plus-minus of a Red Wing, and that's Henrik Zetterberg, believe it or not. So they have 9 guys who have a better plus-minus. They have 4 of the top 5. They have a former Selke winner. They are very deep. They are very good defensively, number 1 in goals against, number 1 in goals for. It's a really scary matchup. With all that said, this team, the way Detroit has played, no fear, young guys with great speed. If Jimmy Howard can rekindle that fire that we saw him play with a year ago come postseason time, I could see them pushing it to 7 games.
The playoff hockey is so difficult to predict because of the bounce of the puck and
Especially
everything else
now,
that happens.
with the parity in the league.
Got to get bigger on the blue line.
Okay, Chris Pronger.
Get worked in the corners.
Yes.
In all
The
seriousness,
dirty areas.
Brad made a point, in prepping us last night about, well, if Columbus would have lost, we still could have the discussion. Would I have rather faced Pittsburgh? Yes. And Shep brought it up. Rask or Fleury is not even close.
Not at all.
And that's where I think the difference in this series is going to come down to. It's time for Jimmy Howard. I'm not saying, he's got to stand on his head and steal a series, but it would be nice.
Well, he did. Wait a minute. He did it a year ago. Come on. He did it in the opening round last season.
He had a very good
Jimmy
round.
Howard gets a really bad rap. Has he been as good as he needs to be this year? No. But don't tell me that he needs to steal a series when he did it last year, and the only reason they were in the series against Chicago was because of Jimmy Howard and guys like Henrik Zetterberg as well. If they got Zetterberg back, this would be something
The young
else.
kids that came up too last year gave them a big lift. I'm just saying this season, Jimmy Howard has not been very good, and if he can be close to Rask, they'll hang around. But Marc-Andre Fleury to me was not scary at all. Malkin being very banged up doesn't scare me, and Matt mentioned it. I mean, Boston's loaded. They're very, very
My
good.
favorite takeaway from this week, and because by this time next week, we'll be 2, maybe 3 games into this first round series.
Yeah.
Babcock said 20 games ago, he sat this team down once they finally made it and came out and admitted, I told them we're going to make it. Not a question of if, not a question of when. He knew this was a young group, had to get that confidence and the pressure off their shoulders. And here they are 20 games later.
He's been really good. Like if it weren't for Patrick Waugh, Mike Babcock would be coach of the year. He'd win the Jack Adams Trophy. He's done a fantastic job. He really has. But this Boston team really scares me. I really push for Detroit to try and get that 7 seed. 47.5% of the times, a 2 has upset a 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. More than any other seeding. More than 4 against 5 or 5 against 4.
It's like 5-12
more than
in the
6-3.
NCAA tournament.
And then if you look at 1-8, it's at about 26%. So it's a big difference between getting a 2-7 against a 1-8.
Red Wings have been the kids have saved them, and it's funny that, and Ken Holland said it on my show back in November. He's like, kids aren't the answer, and it's a men's league. Well, it turns out that the kids were the answer.
And they were the men's league because they played
they are men,
critically down
They're
the
men
stretch.
now, but back then they were saying, no, we got to have Samuelson and Tutu and Cleary and we got to have our veterans out there.
Yeah.
And Kenny and Babs, while they're very, very good, their theory didn't work. Now, ride them. I mean, if Nyquist can skate by Chara like he did in that last game at the Joe, the Wings will be in this series.
Let's do this, though. Let's remember this, so people don't freak out about the Wings. Let's remember the Minnesota Wild Minnesota North Stars in 1991 against the Chicago Blackhawks. Let's remember the Oilers against the Wings. Let's remember the Kings. Let's remember the Ducks. Let's remember the Habs against Washington. Those were 8s beating 1s. It can happen.
Nuggets over the Sonics?
The difference, okay, NBA guy. The difference, what's the biggest difference? This Boston team is more balanced than Alexander Ovechkin and the Capitals were
Just
back
look a few years ago. The LA Kings won the Cup as an 8 seed.
Right.
It can happen. The NHL's changing, and it's changed so much. Right. Could happen twice.
Okay, let's hope.
All right, can you pull up a tweet here? Because we have an interior decorator as we go to break here. Danielle Floyd wants more Red Wing stuff on the set. So we're going to break. We want to take your tweets about the draft. Where do you want the Lions to go?
There's not enough Red Wing stuff
Not
in
enough
here?
Red Wings for Danielle, so bring it back on camera. Let's get us up here, Chris. We're putting more Wing stuff on the set, huh? Check it out.
I'll hold it for you.
Got it?
Yeah.
We want to make people happy.
There you go.
It's Wiserman,
Glory
according
days.
to the president. It's Wiserman.
Put him in a Zierman?
Bring your tweets on the air. What do you want the Lions to do in the draft? This is the Suburban Ford 7 Sports
We have a
Game.
lightning jersey?
What about Lindstrom? Should we have a Lindstrom?
The Suburban Ford 7 Sports Game.
Let the light shine on the Lions. The season is so far away. That preseason schedule announced this year, but everyone's talking about the draft.
Look at Bubbles, man. What a great logo. Take another shot of Bubbles.
Let's get that up
That
there.
makes me feel all warm and fuzzy.
Wait a
man.
minute. This guy went to Syracuse. Have you seen his mascot?
What, Otto?
Okay.
They're about comparable.
Good-looking orange. Delicious.
Yeah.
So we want your thoughts and your
Traditional
input on who the Lions should be drafting. And the big question that everyone's been talking about with multiple reports coming out that the Lions are interested in moving up in the draft. Sammy Watkins in town for a visit this week.
Yeah.
Bill Ford Jr. meeting with the Clemson wide receiver. Before we dig into the tweets, I know where you stand.
Wait, Shep, are you not on my trade up for Super Sammy?
Yeah, are
Tough
you on board?
movement? Are you on
I'm
board?
going to tell you, if I were to trade up, I'd go get Khalil Mack. That's what I would do. okay, because I think he's going to be an outstanding linebacker for about 10 years. He plays the run. He can get after the passer. He's responsible. He's smart, all that stuff.
And you've seen him in person a bunch.
Yeah, I've seen him a lot. And I like Sammy Watkins. I think he's going to be a fabulous receiver. That's not what you have to ask yourself. What you have to ask yourself is, can I get an impact player at that position a little bit later on? What are my needs, okay, in addition to value? Now, do I believe that you take strictly based on need? No, I do not. I think you take the best player available, but at some point it has to factor in on what your team needs and the basis of where you have those players ranked. Sammy Watson's going to be a great player. Can you get a really good wide receiver in the second or third round? You know, there are 16 wide receivers listed as third round or higher type of players that you could get that could help this team. Calvin Johnson on the outside. Golden Tate is more productive on the outside. You could use the slot. You could move Tate inside. But there are guys like Landry who you can get. Aberdarish you can get a little bit later on. They had Cody Latimer in from Indiana. He's a guy who's probably a 4th or a 5th round draft pick. You can get those guys and still improve your team in other ways without trading up for Sammy Watkins.
Let's get to some of the tweets before
Hold
I
on,
get
hold on. I'm a big fan of Matt Shepard. Okay, I really like this John. Okay, Sammy Watkins.
Becomes a butt.
No, there's no buts. Sammy Watkins, where is it? Sammy Watkins is the real deal. Sammy Watkins is this draft. And I have not seen Khalil Mack in person like Shep. And the guy's probably going to be a great linebacker. And so is Anthony Barr probably. Okay, and probably,
I like Anthony Barr.
Probably a need for the Lions too. But we're talking about Sammy Watkins. This guy is going to be unbelievable. And I think that if there's a chance to move up, I love the fact, and this might be a total smokescreen. They could be totally.
Well, what would you give up for it?
I'd give up the 10th
Well,
pick,
that's a given. Okay,
a
what
1,
else?
2, and a 6.
You'd give up next year's
Hold on a
first
second.
rounder.
No. A one this year.
Well, that's not going to get
10th
done.
It won't
pick,
make it
second
happen.
round.
That's not going to get it done.
What about your 10th, a second round, and the one of your 4th rounders?
That's great in Madden,
No.
but not in real life. That's the hard part about this. Because
No.
I agree, moving up is the place to go. Let's pull up a tweet here as we go along, because I don't think that does it. I think you have to give up a first rounder.
Hello, the Oakland Raiders are above them. They're not even a professional franchise.
That's true. That would help.
There's plenty of dumb GMs that'll take that deal.
Matt Dubois is on board with you. Yes, for Sammy Watkins. They have addressed the D, which all signs lead towards drafting a wide receiver anyways. Stefan Vardone says, only reason Lions should trade up would be for Clowney or Watkins. Not sure if they should, though. And then slide it over to Freddie the Pizza Man. I agree we should
He's
trade
a legend.
up.
Shep knows him.
I agree we should trade up for Sammy Watkins. We don't need a stud left tackle or an outside linebacker, safety, or cornerback as playmakers.
Well, that's
don't
not
need
true.
those.
That's not true.
What team has he been watching?
They need a stud left tackle. There's no question about that. Look, here's what I would ask you. Where's your depth on the offensive line and on the back 7?
Right.
You know, I'm not saying corner. I'm not Justin Gilbert. I'm not Darquez Dennard, who I like better than Gilbert, by the way. But where's your depth? Do you realize what's happened with their linebackers? Ashley Palmer's a starter on the outside, who I like a lot and had a better season last year than I originally
probably
thought.
not a starter.
But he's not necessarily a starter. You have Tahir Whitehead. He's a guy who's been a bust as a 4th or 5th round draft pick out of Temple. Come on. You need to build something on the back end and guys who can tackle. Now, it may not be Khalil Mack. It may be Anthony Barr where you stay at 10. But don't give me Sammy Watkins right now. Not at this point in stage with this franchise.
I know how this franchise operates, and I just think that they want weapons. Oh, we got to give Matt his weapons, you know.
Wait a minute, that's a difference. You're saying do it.
I'm saying
there's
do
a
it
big
for
difference.
him. I'm saying do it for him. I
There's a
think
big
he's
difference
that
between
special.
doing it and you saying
Correct.
how this franchise operates.
If they try to trade up to get Watkins and they get him, I will love it. If they try and trade up to, let's say, 8 because they really like Mike Evans too, I'm going to jump out a window and I like Mike Evans. But in that spot, then you wait on Barr, or then you wait on Gilbert or Dennard, or you even trade down and maybe get Dennard later, and you add to the defense. I'm all for, look, hands in the air. I'm all for adding to the defense. They need defensive help.
I agree with you.
But I'm telling you, just my opinion watching this guy, especially in the last game he played in the Orange Bowl, I think Sammy Watkins is going to blow the doors off this
My
team.
biggest problem with this team since they lost to New Orleans in the playoffs 2 years ago, I've said it on this show basically almost every week, they need help in their secondary.
You can't stop anybody.
It's impossible to watch them try to stop anybody when you're trying to shoot people in a shootout 400 yards to 500 yards. I'm tired of watching Pittsburgh and New England and the Giants and other teams draft these cornerbacks that weren't a good enough player at the spot the Lions were drafting.
Well, just let's remember this, though. It's not like they haven't addressed the defense. With Sue and Fairley and Devin Taylor and Ziggy Ansah, Darius Slay, they have addressed defenders. There's no question.
Those guys
Does
just
that
haven't
mean that they can
performed.
give... Right. Look, Bill Bentley's always been a nickel. okay? They drafted him. He's a nickel now. He'll always be a nickel. Darius Slay, when people talk about Justin Gilbert, we got to have Justin Gilbert. Darius Slay was the fastest corner in the draft last year. This is only his second year.
He has to be good this
Yeah,
season.
But Gilbert's more physical, I think, than Slay is, and that Slay was at the college level.
But Jonte Green, Chris Greenwood, Bentley, Slay, those are all in-house guys that I think Martin Mayhew threw against the wall and hoped two stuck. Chris Houston had a horrible year last year. I think will be better. I happen to be a Houston fan.
I like him too.
I think he's solid. So I think they look up, and then you just got the kid from the Colts that started last year, Vaughn. Yeah. So they look up and go, I think we've got enough corners.
Jonte Green had a good second half of the season last year.
He's all right.
But is he a dime package guy, a nickel package guy? Is he a special teams guy? I don't know, but he's good to have a depth on your team. He's not a starter though.
All right, we're gonna move over to the bar, and we're gonna throw up one more tweet, fittingly with the bar theme, because I think somebody's already been visiting the bar. Look at our man Joshua Talley, Johnny F. He wants Johnny football. Okay. My man, I don't know about that. We're coming back.
Play what, receiver?
Glad he's not the GM.
We haven't talked about the Masters yet. Check this out. Tiger's got a Band-Aid, the bobblehead.
When does the Masters start?
I think it's a couple weeks from now.
Is Tiger injury prone?
It's not right now. We'll be talking about that and much more when we come back. Fast 5 minutes after the break.
The Suburban Ford
Back inside the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. We haven't even touched on the Masters yet. We're looking through the leaderboard and
bring your dad in here to talk a little bit more about golf, since he knows more about golf than most of us.
That is true. The Tigers, though, as we discussed a little bit, in a good spot so far, and it is still the first month of the season.
Put that
look
on,
down at the calendar.
the hair? Don't do that.
I was going to put it on you.
Okay, no, definitely don't do that.
He's doing TV today.
He is, that's right. You get to go to the Pistons game
Big
today.
audience for his Pistons broadcast.
That's right. Well, the Tigers have had a big audience and a big draw throughout the season. You look at the 3 people that watch them times about, I don't know, a good 100,000 more. Who's the biggest key for this team this month?
This month?
Everyday player?
Anybody you want.
Okay.
Biggest key for the first month of the season.
I'm going to say Joe Nathan. Yeah. I think that you got to have a guy at the back end that you know come the 9th inning is going to stop people, and the dead arm is a concern. Bullpen's been bad. If they bring in, a Kroll in the 8th and he gives up a run, you got a 1-run lead now, maybe 5-4, 4-3 game.
Yep.
He's just a stabilizer, man. He's an all-star and a guy that you didn't have to worry about, and we've had to worry about him a little bit early. So I'll go with Joe Nathan.
That's a good one. I'll say Austin Jackson because he's playing every single inning. He helps the middle of that order. He's a guy who can really help the left field deficiencies like Rajay Davis, so I'll say Austin Jackson. I think he's important from here on out.
The biggest problem, I think, with Nathan, when you talk about the surefire factor that he brought to the table, when you're talking about him 2 games in, 3 games in, about being a big worry.
His velocity's down than it was a year ago. And when he admitting on a national radio show that his arm is dead, and then he pitches that day, it's a little bit of a concern. Because you thought, we don't have to worry about Nathan, we got to worry about the other guys. Now he's a concern, at least for right now.
He'll be all right.
I think so, too.
Yeah. Nathan Jackson. Masters Sunday, not exactly the same aura that it has about it in past years because Tiger Woods is missing it for the first time in over a decade. That being said, it's Sunday. Who's your pick?
Matt Kuchar. Georgia Tech guy. I'll take Matt Kuchar. Plus, he's an American. Always root for the red, white, and blue.
You get 30 seconds. You just used about 5.
Oh, sorry. That's really all I need. You want me to break down his short game? Larry, can you help me out with that? How about him off the tee, right down the middle? I don't know. Look, Matt Kuchar because I like him. How's that? That's good enough for me.
It's going to be a slow Sunday. The ratings aren't going to be there. People aren't going to be talking about this Masters unless there's a great finish. Who's your pick?
I'm just disappointed that the sport of golf, and I'm not a big Tiger Woods fan, but I would watch if he were there. And I love Phil Mickelson, and him not being there, I think really hurts the sport. I'm getting tired of one-time winner, and then they disappear and finish 18th or 20th, but make a lot of money. I think it's a problem in the sport. I think Bubba Watson winning would be great because he's already won a green jacket, and maybe we could get some sort of rivalry when Tiger comes back. I think the sport's being hurt by the fact that these guys win one, and then as long as they finish 15th to 30th, they cash in. And it bores me.
How's that any different than any other sport?
Well,
where teams roll and they get to a really good place, and then you get a free agent who decides to leave. How's that any different?
The Detroit Pistons are finishing 18th in the NBA. They get to go. They're going home. You finish 18th in pro golf, you make a lot of dough. I think some of these guys,
sure you do. But you're also paying for a lot of your own expenses and things like that.
Like Wojo calls them country club softies. I think that's what it's turned into. As long as you cash in,
how's that any different than it's always been?
No.
Is this revolutionary about golf?
No, there have been plenty of guys that have won multiple majors, and we've had good rivalries. So the last few years, guys win one and then they're done.
Arnie's Army back here.
That's right.
Crying out loud.
Jeez,
this is no different than it's been the last 20 years.
From country club softies to the Detroit Pistons. Some would put them maybe in similar category this year. The 8th pick is not a lock until those lottery balls are drawn.
Right.
But the tanking effort could still be there. 2 games left. How bad can this thing go? With just 2 games to go.
Look, it's already really bad. This is a team that needs all kinds of help. You got to go out. You got to get a guy like Lindsey from San Antonio to run your team as a general manager. You need a head coach like a Lionel Hollins, and you got to make sure you get the right free agent. Chandler Parsons would be good. You got to make the right draft pick, a Gary Harris who defends and can shoot from the wing. All those things. I don't look at it so much as a negative, Brad, as I do as this is beginning the rebuilding process. Now what do you do? Who do you keep? Who do you let go? Who are you going to attract to come to your franchise?
We've been hearing rebuilding for way too long.
I know.
I think that's
you're
the
right.
biggest problem.
You're right.
And they tried to rebuild, and that didn't go very well.
The culture is horrible, and that's a problem. It's one thing to lose and to tank, but to still have some sort of an eye towards the end of the tunnel. And right now, this is really bad, and everybody's finger pointing from the top to the players. And when players mess up, there's got to be consequences. When Brandon Jennings, jacks around for a week and then is on Twitter after a loss an hour afterwards posting selfies, somebody in the organization has got to put these guys in place. To me, I'd blow the thing up. I'd keep Drummond, Singler, and KCP. Let the rest walk.
We need to get a graphic. Matt Derry, selfie hater.
Oh, selfies are cool, but
Selfies are cool, just not after a
I think
loss.
Shep agrees, man. I'm from the old school. You lose a game, you should be upset on the bus ride.
No, look, I agree, but to your golf point, that's been happening in the NBA for a long time where teams are tanking on purpose, or we get the sense that they're tanking on purpose.
But this team isn't.
No, it's not. And you're right. Those 3 guys, I keep
Which
too.
makes it
Look, I
worse.
also keep Tony Mitchell, but that's not like he's going to necessarily help my team next year, but I keep him as a developmental guy.
All right, we can't put these guys in a ring, and we can't get Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather in the ring together,
was
which
sweet.
is too bad. Pacquiao beat Timothy Bradley last night to keep his streak alive, to get back in the great graces, blah, 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 blah. Does boxing matter if these two don't get in? Because the biggest thing for me, they're getting older. So even if they get back in the ring, will it save boxing?
Well, he won the first round. He won the first matchup, too. They just screwed him over. Look, this is a situation in sports that we're seeing on a pretty regular basis where there's plenty of controversy. Is it good for sports or not? It gives us something to talk about, something to debate. It gives fans a reason to show their emotion again. Manny Pacquiao won the first match with Bradley, and he won last night even more decisively. Do you need these guys? Probably, because they're names everybody recognizes, but boxing's gone without names for a long, long time. More people are into MMA and UFC than they are into WWF.
They got in the ring, though, would it save the sport? Are we past that?
We need something. I mean, Shep is 100% right. I mean, we need something because, to be quite honest, the heavyweight division, I don't know who's in it. The Klitschko brothers?
Klitschko brothers. There
are
you
they
go.
Still around?
Yep.
It's an embarrassment.
Jerry Quarry?
I'm not going to pay money to watch Timothy Bradley. I have no idea who he is. They don't market the sport. To me, and I don't want to go back to, they need to put it on ABC Wild World of Sports on a Saturday afternoon. No, but there needs to be some. If Pacquiao and Mayweather are the best, get them in the ring together and let's fight. But the heavyweight division's bad, and WWE is more popular. I know more wrestlers than boxing.
You know what you touch on? It's because it's on HBO. All the big fights are on HBO. When we were kids, they were on network television. We could all see it. Yep.
Makes it a lot easier.
I know. I hate to go old school and go old guy, but that's just the way it is.
Who is the heavyweight champion right now? Cricket. See, I mean, we don't know. We used to. I mean, remember when Tyson was? Nobody missed a Tyson fight.
Nobody missed a Leonard or a Hagler fight either.
Right.
Or a Hearns fight.
Last of the Fast Five. You ready?
Ready. Pernell Whitaker. Go.
Boom. So the other night in Los Angeles, the Angels are playing against the Mets. Curtis Granderson goes back, 1 out, catches a ball.
Great glove.
It's Ty Cobb's glove, authentic. It's that.
I wonder how Josh Lewin called that play.
A fan grabs
I can
him,
wait.
wants the ball, and Granderson shoves him.
Was
throws
that
it
it?
back
Wait,
in.
did he want the ball? I saw him just go like this. And Granderson turns around and gives him a piece of his, mind. And rightfully so.
So here's my problem. How much is too much if you're a fan?
Well, ask a player that. Because the player doesn't want to have anything to do with that. There's metal detectors in a lot of these stadiums and arenas now for a reason. Players don't have time to worry about whether or not going into the stands trying to catch a foul ball or their momentum carrying them from catching a fair ball is going to put them in harm's way. Curtis Granderson was dead on there. That guy had no right to touch him whatsoever. Players deserve it. If they're not going into the stands themselves to catch a foul ball or something like that, then they should be off limits. That guy was escorted. He should have been escorted out.
Safest place for a player should be on the field. Period. I mean, Adam Jones of the Orioles said it last week. Fans are running on the field at Yankee Stadium, and Adam Jones went ballistic, and he should. Now, I think Adam Jones, because he was in New York and it's Yankees-Orioles, probably got a little bit crazy with it, but I liked it. because he's right. Safest place should be on the field. The last thing we want is to put up netting and railings over everything.
Right.
That's the beauty of baseball. Stay off the field. And TV cameras don't show it anymore, so these jackasses that want to get on there, they don't show it anymore. Right.
That's good.
It is.
It's like streaking.
We're going to get to know that.
In the quad. And
Well, all those people who run out of the field. TV cameras used to show it all the time. That's why a lot of people did it. They don't do that anymore. Hopefully it's cut down on that.
Let's get to know one of the newest Lions after the break. James Ihedibo will not be streaking. He's keeping his clothes on for a one-on-one interview.
Where is he? Is he here?
With Tom Lydon, who's also keeping his clothes on. Get to know the new Lions safety that's going to be paired up with Glover Quinn. This is the Suburban Ford 7 Sportscape Lions.
The Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave is brought to you in part by Hungry Howie's.
Look, it's a Lions bobblehead.
Here, you can be Louis Delmas. Go ahead first.
He's gone. You know the guy replacing him? Say it. Go ahead, real quick.
James Ihedibo.
Yeah, James Ihedibo. Talked with Tom Lydon after visiting with the Detroit media and his coaches for the first time this week. The first question he asks, how to pronounce that name. This is Tom one-on-one with the new Lions safety.
So you cheated. You already knew the answer.
I did.
Okay.
Well, this is a man that the Lions and Lions fans are going to expect a lot from, but you may not know that much about. First of all, give us the proper pronunciation of the last name.
It's Ihedibo.
All right.
Yeah.
James Ihedibo. Get used to it. He's going to be in your defensive backfield, and you're going to have an interesting role because you come in with Terrell Austin, the defensive coordinator, familiar with him, so you're almost going to be a teacher a little bit right out of the chute. How do you feel about that?
I'm looking forward to it. It is a unique position to be in, but to be able to be a quarterback, so to speak, of the defense and help guys learn the system, as well as executing at a high level, it's an awesome opportunity in front of us.
What's his staple, his trademark as a coach? What should we expect of him when he gets his first chance to run a defense now?
A lot of different looks, a lot of pressure, a lot of different coverages. We like to, test and see if we can make, quarterbacks make decisions, on the run and on the fly and, create some turnovers and give the ball to our offense in great field position.
You were here in December when the Ravens played against the Lions, and I don't know when you're in that situation if you take a look at what the Lions' defense is like, or you were thinking that way at all because you were so, entrenched in what you were doing at Baltimore. But what was that experience like, and did it factor in at all when you made your decision to come here?
The thing that was awesome about when we played here in December was the Lions fans and how intense and loud they were throughout the whole entire game, and that was a part of my decision to come here is based on the fan base and how they support their team. In terms of the defense, the guys that I'll be playing alongside with, you look at this roster of talent, it's phenomenal, and that's what I'm really looking forward to doing.
They're going to pair you up immediately with Glover, a guy who came in here basically in your same shoes last year, a person who was a free agent, chose to come here. What do you know about him, and how might you be able to complement what he does back there?
He's a great player, very physical, rangy safety, can cover ground, plays the game fast. He's very, very smart, and that complements my game very well. I'm a physical, hard-hitting safety, like to get after it. And very intelligent as well. So I think we'll be able to elevate each other's game, to another level. So I'm definitely, it's going to be a great match.
You've been fortunate that you've been able to absorb some knowledge from some of the best that'll ever play. When all's said and done, Ed Reed's going to the Hall of Fame and Ray Lewis going to the Hall of Fame, and you played on the same defense with both of those guys. What do you take away from them, if nothing else, about how to be a winner in this league?
The one thing that I got from both of them is consistency. And, to be able to play at a high level, throughout their whole careers and do the things that they've done, it takes a great, fortitude of mental toughness. And for them to be able to do that and me be able to see that from the outside in, I've definitely implemented that into my game and definitely looking to take my game to the next level as well.
Right, on the personal side, because we got to get to know you a little bit. Just had a baby. How rewarding is that, and what's life been like these last couple weeks?
It's been awesome. I have a baby girl. Her name's Grace. It's wonderful. You talk about a love that you didn't know that you had in you, and to be able to experience that, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing her, and it's amazing. It really is.
As a dad of 2 girls, I can tell you this in all sincerity. I mean, people said it to me too. You're going to finally know what love is, because there's nothing like love back from a daughter to a dad too. So embrace that as well. It's a whole new set of opportunities for you here. I know you're going to find that the Detroit fan base is going to welcome you with open arms, and I certainly appreciate a couple minutes of your time.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
So that's how you say it. Hedibo, you were listening, right?
Good guy, huh?
I think, I think they've got to be better against the pass. And I know he's more of a hitter. And if Quinn can move back to free safety, if they can be better against the deep ball and playing the ball rather than their pass safeties playing the man, it'll help the secondary.
Interesting takeaway from that, talking about the influence Ed Reed, Ray Lewis had on his career, being a winner. Now he goes to another franchise, has to try to instill that same kind of value into the defense.
Well, not just that, and I hate to overuse this word, but leadership too. I mean, this team needs some guys back there who can show some of these younger secondary players and other players overall on what they need to do to prepare a little bit better. And he's one of those guys. Glover Quinn, we thought, was one of those guys. Look, Kyle Vanden Bosch, we thought, was one of those guys. Stephen Tulloch, one of those guys. All these guys have won, okay? He's won at the highest level, and he's been a major contributor. He's got to help this team in more ways than just making plays on the football field.
Nate Burleson was a leader. He's out of the locker room. So there is a void right now, especially on defense, because we've been looking, and we talked so much already about Sue. So it'd be nice if he can step in and add a little bit to it.
I agree, but I also, you have to have good players. You still have to, you want to win 10 games, and 100%. The time is now. You have to have good players, and I hope he's better than Louis Delmas was. There's a reason Delmas got a 1-year deal in Miami. I don't think he was that good.
That's a really good point, because I think Tony Gonzalez is a hell of a player, right? He's a Hall of Fame player. Right. I think he's a really good leader. Atlanta didn't play very well last year. He's a really good. It takes more than just that. It takes more than just leadership and more than just good players. You have to. I know Jim Leland doesn't like this word. You have to have some chemistry. This team's got to develop that. It goes back to our Sue conversation that we won't get back into. Another reason why I think you should be there.
We want more feedback from you. Use the hashtag 7SportsCave on Twitter. We asked them the question, who's the most important player to the Tigers in the first month of the season? What do you have to say about that? Use the hashtag, interact with us. Your tweets could be on TV, driving our conversation. When we come back after the break, we're going to be talking Red Wings. As the playoff push is now over and we're going into the first round, who's the most important person for them against Boston in the first round of the series? Yeah, we'll be talking much more on the 7 Sports Cave. All right, we promised we'd be talking Wings. We have a special guest with us joining us from St. Louis, from the Detroit Free Press, Helena St. James, with us via Skype. Good morning to you out there.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. The biggest question in our takeaway, we talked all about the Bruins-Red Wings matchup. These guys found out late last night that it would be Boston in the first round. Immediate reactions from you, knowing that now it is the Bruins for them.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Your thoughts on, and the team's thoughts on playing the Bruins in the first round.
Yeah, I think whether they play the Bruins or, as they thought for a while, Pittsburgh, Detroit's going to, I think, emerge as the victor. They have a lot of things going for them right now, rolling 4 good lines, most importantly of all. The fact that they know who they're playing and there's nothing at stake for them today. They're going to sit a few guys, Nicholas Kronwall, Johan Franzen, Danny DeKeyser, and Daniel Alfredsson, take their opportunity to rest up before starting the series as they anticipate Thursday in Boston.
Helene, it's Matt Shepard. What is the biggest matchup when you look at Boston? I know they beat them 3 out of 4, the only team to do that this year, but where do you see as the biggest matchup between these two teams in round 1?
Probably on defense. I mean, Boston has just an incredible defense. It's not just Zdeno Chara, who's impossible for any forward to move in front of the net or any goalie to look in front of. So what you really have to do when you play a guy like that is just try to put your stick on top of his, make sure he can't be effective that way. And then, Boston has some incredible forwards as well, but, Detroit is the only team that beat Boston 3 times in regulation this season. 2 of those games they didn't have Pavel Datsyuk. 1 of those they didn't have Henrik Zetterberg or Pavel Datsyuk. So I think they have to be feeling pretty confident about themselves.
Elena, how do you feel about Jimmy Howard and his approach going to the playoffs? How do you feel he's played this year, up and down, but your thoughts on him now as he'll have to go up against Rask?
I think he's feeling pretty good about himself. I mean, he's had some good games of late. Not every goal they score, opponent scores, is his fault. The Carolina game, I think he got hung out to dry a few games. So he's also one of the mentally toughest goalies. I think he learned a lot from being around Chris Osgood for many years on how to shake off a bad performance right away. So I'm not worried about him going into the playoffs.
Helena, busy morning there. I know you've got to get your pregame meal in. What's the spread look like in St. Louis in the press box today?
What does the spread look like? You know what? I ate at the hotel, and I'm actually hoping to get home tonight, but we have very bad thunderstorms here, so keep your fingers crossed. Every plane leaves this afternoon from St. Louis.
They are crossed. Be safe, have fun, travel safely to Boston, and good luck finding a hotel. It's marathon weekend there.
Yeah, that's right.
Next week. So thank you so much for joining us from St. Louis. Have fun out there today. Good stuff. Elena St. James from the Detroit Free Press.
Asking her about the pregame meal.
It's important. You can see she's right there in the press box. Important
You
priorities.
tell
She
what
was holding
Brad's
the phone.
priorities are. I disagree with her, by the way. I don't think it's going up against Boston's D. I think it's Boston's forwards against Detroit's defense. When you got guys like Brian Lashoff, Danny DeKeyser, who I like a lot, Nicholas Cronwell, you're without Jonathan Erickson, against guys like Lucic and Marchand and the amount of Ginla, the waves that they can bring at you and how deep they are. I think it's just the opposite. I think it's Boston's forwards against Detroit's D that will dictate this series.
It'll be a top-heavy series because if, as Mike Babcock said, they steal one from Boston on the road, it's a brand new series.
No question.
And the door is wide open.
Don't forget the former Spartan, Torrey Krug, on the back end.
40-point guy on
Do
defense.
you realize Kyle Quincy played in all 82 games? I didn't.
Do you realize he's the only player to do that?
Yeah, I think it was him and Drew Miller, right?
And he may
I
be
thought it
the
was just
worst.
him.
We're talking Tigers after
This is
the
last
break.
year, by the way, so it doesn't matter.
Thank goodness. Good first-round pick traded for him.
And he gets scratched.
We're talking Tigers after this. Use your tweets on TV, #7SportsCave. Tigers, baseball.
It's an old time.
The Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave is powered by
All right, we promised you your tweets would be on TV. Let's get right to them using the #7SportsCave, talking who's the most important player for the Tigers this month to set the tone for the season. If we can get him up there, let's see if it's working. We got Keith Jefferson, who's talking about the most important Tiger, Brad Ausmus. New skipper, new ideology. Most important Tiger, says David Benjamin. Whoever becomes the eighth inning guy can't win without an effective one. You guys take on
That's a good one because Bruce Rondon, the injury to him at the end of last year was major, and the injury this year is a huge void to fill. I agree with that. I don't understand the new ideology. If it's running into outs at second and third base, I guess.
Boom!
No, I think that it's, you know, at the end of the day, if Miguel Cabrera knocks in 3 with a home run and you win a ball game, that's what the Tigers do. Victor Martinez, you're right. It's not all of a sudden. I think people think because Ausmus wants to be a little bit more aggressive, that all of a sudden this team is going to be 9 Ricky Hendersons. That's not the case.
Minor change. He said time and time again, the players make this team. Jim
Right.
Leyland was a good manager.
Right.
I'm just trying to fit in and try to put them in front. I'll be the guy pulling the strings.
Yeah,
from
he's
behind.
still learning too.
He is.
He pitch ran for Avila like in the first week, and that was unheard of, which I liked. It's a little change, but I don't think this whole team is just going to be a whole new look just because they have a new manager.
Well, they do win differently. I will say that
They're gonna
because
have to,
their
right.
makeup is different.
Right.
Without a doubt. Well, hey, every week our friends at State Champs Sports Network give us a play of the week. Last week they had a kid hitting a home run against my alma mater, Brother Ice. Did you guys know I went there?
No idea.
I've never heard of that.
So this week to get
Go
back,
UAD high.
here's Jason Alessi.
UAD?
Brother Ice lacrosse against Cranbrook. They won 20-8. This was a pretty cool goal. Taking his time.
Nice.
Now, what position is that? Do you guys know?
Position.
That's the X. He was at the X. This is a kid who could play at Michigan. He was offered a free boat for lacrosse at Michigan, turned it down so he could play football at Yale.
Insight you can only get here on the 7th. Welcome back inside. This is the point in the show where we share our final thoughts. A good one, kicking things off with Matt Shepard from some college hockey action last night.
Well, yeah, look, Brad, I get hockey as a niche sport, and accepting that means there are even fewer folks who appreciate college hockey, and I'm one of those guys. And while we love our Cinderella stories of Texas Western in '66 and NC State of '83 winning national championships, what about last night's battle for college hockey supremacy? One of the greatest moments you will ever see in sports. Why? Because it was Union beating Minnesota. Minnesota, the #1 overall seed, a school that has over 51,000 students, a school that has 26 scholarship players, a school that brings in $6.5 million per year in hockey, and a school that has 5 hockey national championships. Union has none. They don't have one single scholarship player. As a matter of fact, it's a school of 2,200. They've only been a varsity sport since '91. They've only been D1, or made the NCAA tournament, I should say, since 2011, so just 2 times. You want Cinderella slippers? It fits on Union College, and it fits because of a 7-4 win last night.
Spectacular point. Fun to watch. No scholarships.
No scholarship players. Oh, and by the way, 1 draft pick. Minnesota, 14 NHL draft picks.
Mr. Derry?
All right, very quickly, I happened to notice the other day on a blog by Brian Bennett on ESPN.com as he was talking about Michigan. Can I read this? Brady Hoke said the youth on the offensive line is a remaining byproduct of the transition from Rich Rodriguez. You've got to be kidding me. Brady Hoke and Michigan football have been married together now. This will be going into year 4. Can we please stop with this narrative about Rich Rod? Can we please stop saying how young they are and, oh, we're transitioning? You're Michigan. I'm ready to see a leaders and best champions of the West football team this fall go out and compete for a Big Ten title, something that Hoke said after the first year they didn't do and it was unacceptable. I like Hoke for that. I like that he aims high and says, if we don't win the Big Ten, it's a failure. Well, this stuff about bringing Rich Rod back, it's an old bit, needs to go.
The NCAA this week trotted Kentucky and Connecticut onto its 9:18 p.m. big stage Monday night with all of the hoopla, all of the celebration, all the NCAA sponsorship. The players, Shabazz Napier, shouted for everyone's attention. He told the Nation of Hoops fans, this is what happens when you ban us. Was it the best way to accept the trophy? Probably not. But did it have a bigger message that behind it, a message has been eating at the core of the NCAA for years and years? Absolutely. Everything's got a sponsorship, but these players continue to be hurt because there's a big pie. The checks continue to get cut, the money continues to pour in, and these players are told they just need to be happy with their education and watch and smile as everyone eats the pie. There's a solution there, and they deserve more. What hit me the most? The cutting down the nets when the sponsorship was on that too.
Yeah, well, the ladder's also sponsored. Keep that in mind.
Everything's sponsored.
Mark Emmert's got to go. They got to get
Get
some
him out of there.
new
They
balls.
haven't revamped the entire
It's
thing.
awful.
This we don't have to revamp. We love you interacting with us. Matt, I'm Brad. This has been the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave.